The sun came up, the Gadsden flags are flying, and it's now our turn to act. Speaking of acting, Professor Randy Barnett, Georgetown University, his latest book, Restoring the Lost Constitution, The Presumption of Liberty. Professor Barnett, welcome back to the program. How are you today, sir?
I'm recovering. I'm recovering from yesterday. I think I'm doing much better, actually, Mike.
Now, let me ask you, for those that don't know, Professor Barnett had a hand in some of the arguing or some of the presentation of the state's case against the Affordable Care Act in the courts. So I imagine that...
Actually, Mike, I represented the National Federation of Independent Business in that lawsuit, and we were the private parties associated with the states.
Okay. What happened?
Well, something happened that was not something any of us expected. Either way, we thought there were two things on the table in this lawsuit that Congress put on the table, we didn't put on the table. One was ObamaCare, which takes over a substantial portion of the American economy, puts government in control of our medical care, and fundamentally changes the relationship of the citizen to the government because they control our medical care. That's the first huge thing that ObamaCare was put on the table by Congress. The second thing was the justification for this was a vast expansion of Congress's power under the Commerce Clause, which is the power that Congress claimed to be able to enact an individual insurance mandate that funded this whole bill. So there were two things at stake in this lawsuit. We had to save the country from Obamacare, and we had to save the Constitution for the country. Yesterday, and I always thought that these had to rise and fall together. If we lost on Obamacare, it would mean we lost the Constitution. If we won on Obamacare, if we won on the Constitution, it would mean we won on Obamacare. Yesterday, Chief Justice Roberts figured out a way to give us a victory on the Constitution while handing us a stinging defeat on Obamacare.
I have to ask, explain to me, I haven't read the entire ruling, I read parts of it, and I've read several people's opinions on it that have read it. How was the Constitution saved by invoking the Good and Plenty Clause?
It's very important that we all understand this, and there are many, many commentators today on the right and also on the left today who show they understand this. The first important thing is that the Commerce Clause has not only been protected, it has been strengthened. All the arguments that we made about why an individual insurance mandate was beyond the Commerce power were dismissed by all the experts, all my academic colleagues, as frivolous claims. Every single one of our arguments about the Commerce Clause was adopted by 5 justices. Every single one of our arguments about the Necessary and Proper Clause was adopted by 5 justices, and 7 justices adopted the view that Congress's spending power was limited so that they could not coerce the states into accepting Medicaid challenges by withholding all the Medicaid funding the states are now receiving. Those were huge.
Now, let's get into the constitutionality of this, because you and I disagree on the what I call the incorporation doctrine a bit. So we have a little bit of a difference of opinion on that. But I also would just point out to you, when you say that there was a victory because the general government cannot deny funds to the states for Medicaid, and Andrew pointed this out earlier today. I pointed out to him that during the Obamacare, the aftermath of the Obamacare vote, my senator, Senator Landrieu, was accused of getting this thing called the Louisiana Purchase. And she got really upset one day because the governor, Bobby Jindal, our governor, was saying that, she sold the state out, and so did Senator Vitter, and so did Representative Scalise and a few others. And she took to the floor of the Senate with a series of charts, and she basically filibustered for about 6 hours. And she presented, and I never thought it would come from Mary Landrieu, but it did. Senator Landrieu presented the case that the state of Louisiana was participating in Medicaid voluntarily. There was no edict. There was no compulsion. And she read from the statute. She read from the act back in the 1960s that made Medicaid. And she said, look, we none of us have to take any of this money. We're free to reject it tomorrow morning if we want. We choose not to because we get this and that and the other. And so I don't think that...
Seven justices rejected that proposition this week.
Well, that a state could reject it, or that a state
no, that the states were being presented a free choice. Seven justices says no, it's not a free choice. The fact that you have to give up all the existing funding you get if you don't agree to new coverage requirements is not a free choice. The government made Senator Landrieu's argument to the Supreme Court, and 7 justices rejected it this week.
So the states then are compulsory participants in Medicaid.
Well, what they said was the government can't use the amount of money the states are currently getting to compel them to agree to something more. They have to agree again. They did agree to get into Medicaid in the first place. They did.
Right.
And now they have to agree to expand it, which they were not given a choice to do. Now they have the choice. Whether they do it or not, it's up to them.
Okay, so let's revisit. So Medicaid is now. So the state is I live in Louisiana. So Governor Jindal, our legislature could convene a special session tomorrow and say, look, that mandate is a non-starter here. Anybody comes in here and tries to enforce it, we're going to arrest you and we're going to try you and we're going to throw you in one of our jails, not a federal jail.
No, the issue is for the states on this side. The issue is whether they have to expand coverage to include people who are new classes of people that are not currently covered and people who make a lot more money than currently are eligible for Medicaid. That's what the federal government mandated that the states do by saying we're going to take away all your Medicaid funding if you don't agree to this. Now, they can agree to that or not agree to that. But the Louisiana citizens' money that's already going to the federal government and coming back for the current Medicaid program is not going to be held hostage to this new choice. Only the new money is going to be at risk. They'll have to give up the new money they're going to get, the Louisiana Purchase money, the extra money they're going to get. But they can still keep all the money they had and not go along with the new coverage expansion. That's up to them. That was what was decided. 7 justices decided that this time.
So 7 justices.
It's the first time since the New Deal that the court has invalidated any part of a law on spending power, has found any enforceable limit on the spending power. It just hasn't happened before.
So then the states then, okay, so the state of Louisiana then, or the state of Texas, state of Maryland, state of Florida, state of Georgia, state of Kentucky, can say, okay, we're not playing your game. We're not playing by the new rules. So they can nullify that. So they just basically sanction, nullification, if I'm understanding you.
No, it's voluntary. Yes.
Okay.
The Congress, under the spending power, does not have the power to compel the states to do stuff. That was decided, and the fact that Congress cannot commandeer states was affirmed by the court in the 1990s in the Rehnquist court. So what we were arguing is that this threat to withhold money amounted to compulsion, which is something that's unconstitutional, and the court agreed. It did. And so now they have to choose it. They can do it, but they have to choose it. It's not nullifying, it's contract. They have to choose it. They chose it before. They got into Medicaid. They didn't know what they were getting into. It turned out to be a pretty bad system, which they have a hard time getting out of because it's so huge. And that's bad. And we didn't fix that. But we did fix the ability of Congress to leverage everything the states now get into making them do more. Now the states get another choice. That happened this week.
Got it. All right. Professor Barnett, Restoring the Lost Constitution, the Presumption of Liberty. Look, next time we have you back, and it will be soon because I want to get back to this after the election. All right, Professor Barnett, thank you very much, my friend.
Okay, thanks, Mike. You have to be good.
Yeah, we'll talk to you real soon. Okay, so.
I guess, where are you on the second part of the ruling that was struck down in terms of the federal government can't require the states to open up the Medicade, Medicare, those roles further, which seem to be a strike down of an important aspect of Obamacare?
So, in other words, the requirements that the states are going to have to expand their Medicaid pools.
Correct.
And have to admit more people in, and they got to care for more people, that they can't require it. Andrew, they don't require it now. There's no law that says you have to, you shall, when it comes to Medicaid. There is a suggestion the states volunteer for Medicaid suicide.
So I guess that is not.
And you know how I know this? You want to hear the greatest irony of all? You know how I know this? my senator, my worthless senator, Mary Landrieu, gave a speech after 4 years after Hurricane Katrina. No. It was during the Louisiana Purchase controversy. You remember that? There was the Cornhusker kickback, the Louisiana Purchase. I think there was another one. Do you remember what the other one's nickname was? There were 3 giveaways that were outed in the Obamacare deal. Anyways, Landrieu gave a speech on the floor of the Senate where Governor Jindal and a few others had accused her of selling her state down the river on the Medicaid thing, like you just said. And she read from the act. She had one of her staffers go and pull the Medicaid Act, and she read from the act, and she said, I don't know where they're getting all this from. We volunteer to participate in Medicaid. Our governor volunteers to participate in Medicaid, darling. We don't have to. We volunteer to. All the states do. So I took her at her word. I didn't look it up, but I just took it if she was saying that as a response to Governor Jindal that you volunteer. So what did Robert say? Well, you can't force the states. They don't force them now.
But isn't that a good thing in the sense that now it is clear that the federal government cannot punish the states for it? Or am I just trying? Am I looking through rose-colored glasses a little bit?
I applaud you for looking for signs of optimism today.
All right. So once again, more of a semantical issue.
But take the good away and say, yeah, okay, that's a good thing. Good thing as opposed to the bad thing that would be. We're going to order you to do it. Well, as I just tried to demonstrate, the Medicaid is a voluntary thing now. Anyways. So again, you saying that you're going to elect more federal Republicans to get rid of Obamacare, you got it backwards. You get your state to repeal it so that it doesn't work in your state. And while you're at it, you might as well go ahead and get rid of Medicare and Medicaid, too. If you want to administer those things, then adopt them for your state. If they're such good ideas, adopt them on the local level. That's what I have to say about that, folks.